Okay, so we're going to talk about another apportionment method called Webster's method. This was a method that I wasn't originally going to cover, but since the only questions on my math lab that talk about Huntington Hill also talk about, or that ask you to solve apportionment problems with Huntington Hill, also ask you to use Webster's method too. So since we have extra time now, sort of, actually we have less time obviously because 2 weeks of spring break, but there's extra time because I'm probably not going to cover the last chapter that I was going to cover. So, and I want to give you extra time to prepare for test number 2. We'll talk about Webster's method. It's not that difficult. So it uses conventional rounding with modified quotas. So conventional rounding just means that if I have a number like, let me give you 2 examples that give you different answers. So conventional rounding means you look at, if I want to round to the nearest whole number here, you look at the number in the tens place. If it's 5 or above, you round up. If it's below 5, you round down. So that's conventional rounding. That's what conventional rounding means. You round up if the number is 5 or above. Round down if it's below 5. So this method uses conventional rounding, but it doesn't use a standard divisor. It uses a modified divisor that we're going to just call D for divisor. So let me kind of show you how that's done. I'll use the same example. I don't know if this is in the book or on PowerPoint, but I can use the same example with the Congress of Parador example. Let me look. Yeah, oh, okay, they do have it. All right, so what you're going to do here is you don't want any surplus seats. You just want, when you divide by the divisor, you want to get numbers that when you use conventional rounding will round to the exact amount of seats. So I'm going to write down the steps, which I didn't do for Hamilton's method because we already talked about it in class. So step 1, find a suitable divisor. You're going to start with the standard divisor, but it might not work. If it works, actually, you can just use the standard divisor. We're going to call it D. Then you use D as the divisor. Using D as the divisor, you'll find the state's modified quota. Using D as the divisor, find each state's modified quota. Yeah, I guess that's right. They have the E apostrophe S. I'm not an English major, but I think it's actually, I'm right actually, because you're finding each state. All right, so just like with if you're using the standard divisor, it would just be each state's population divided by the standard divisor. So the modified quota is just each state's population divided by D. That's going to give you the modified quota. And then you just round. Use conventional rounding. Number of seats each state gets. All right, So the hard part though is actually, and I won't say hard like it really is hard, but the hardest part is coming up with this. The first thing you should do though is just actually use the standard divisor, and if that works, then you're good. If it doesn't work, then you have to change the standard divisor to a suitable divisor, and you'll see what I mean by that. Let's see if I can write this example up here. Yeah, so this video, hopefully I can keep it to under 15 minutes, but it might take a while because sometimes it's difficult to find the suitable divisor. So this is Webster's method. I'm going to get rid of that. So if you remember from the last video, if you watched it, the one on Hamilton's method, there was this Congress of a country called Parador that had 6 states. Let's see, how am I going to write this thing? I want to write it just like how the PowerPoint has it. That way you can bring up the PowerPoint possibly and follow along with it. So you have a state, you have the population, so A, B, C, population of this state is that 6,9. Poor state C has a small population. Don't know why they're so small. Almost done with this part. Actually, there's a lot to this chart, so. So if you remember, there were 250 seats that needed to be divided up in this example. That stays for using this apportionment method, we're going to use the same numbers. So it's 250 seats. We're trying to apportion them properly between all the different states. So the standard quota, we're gonna write down what the standard quota is, and that means you take each state's population and divide it by the standard divisor. So the standard divisor is the population here, the total population divided by 250. So I believe it's 50,000. Yeah, it is. It's 50,000. So this is using, hopefully you can see that. We're using the standard divisor to find the standard quota. And we already know what these were because it's the same as if you watched the last video. If you're just watching this first because we already talked about Hamilton's method in class, and you can go back and look at it. It's a good review to watch it because you are going to be tested at some point on this. So using the standard quotas, or the standard divisor, we found each state's standard quota. Now, remember, Webster's method is going to use conventional rounding. So when you round to the nearest integer, let's just write NI, nearest integer. This is 33, 139, 3, 42, 14, 20. You get 251 seats. I'm surprised it's only 251. 6, 9, 8. Yep, it's 251. But we only have 250 seats, so we can't do this. So since using the standard divisor of 50,000 gives you more seats, and remember, the standard divisor being 50,000 means you're dividing this number by 50,000, this number by 50,000, that number by 50,000. We want these numbers to be smaller because this number here has to be smaller. So dividing by a bigger number, like if I divided this number by 60,000, it would make this number smaller. But we don't want to pick that big of a difference because that would make it a lot smaller. Then this would come out probably to like 200. We want it to be 250 once we round. So I'm going to just pick a bigger number, but not that much bigger. So remember, now we're going to just call it D for suitable divisor, and we're going to raise it up just a little bit. Now, you'll probably get good at doing this, hopefully. Like, I know that this is going to work, but if I was doing it without knowing that, I might go up to 51,000. But I think if you go up to 51,000, it makes it too small. This would probably come out to like 140 something. So, but if you just go up a little bit, but if you did go up to 51,000 and then got a really small number here, then you go down to somewhere in between 50,000 and 51,000. But this is going to work. 50,100. When you divide this state's population by 50,100, I'm going to write MQ for modified quota. This comes out to be 32.85, 138.44. See that every number is going to go down because you're dividing by a bigger number. This goes down, but not that much. I'm surprised it only went down that much. 41. I guess, like I said, we didn't really change the quota that much. We only added 100 to it. So these numbers aren't being changed by that much. And we didn't really need to change them by that much because we got 251, which isn't that far off from 250. Oh, 19.72. I was born in 1972. All right, so if you round these new modified quotas, this is 33. Notice here though, it was 0.72, which would round up. Now it's below 5, so this rounds down. I think that might be the only one that changes. Yeah. Everything stayed the same, except for this one went down. So it went down by 1, so this number is now going to be 1 less. So it's 250, which is exactly what you wanted. So, like I said, that turned out really great. So using Webster's method, you just use conventional rounding. You start with the standard divisor to find the standard quotas. You round them conventionally. If this number turned out to be 250, which it could, using the standard quota, then you're done. You can just use the standard divisor to find the standard quota, round, and then you get 250. But if it doesn't, which in this case it didn't do, using the standard divisor and then using conventional rounding gives you 1 extra seat. What you do, since it's 1 extra seat, since you have more than you want, you just tweak the what you're using for the divisor, since you have more than what you want, you make the divisor bigger. Now, how much you make it bigger is up to you. Like I said, I already knew that this number would work, but if I didn't know that, I probably would have gone up even higher, maybe to 51,000, maybe only to 50,500. What would have happened if I went up to 51,000 is that it probably would have lowered this number even below that. So I would have to go down. Then I might go to 50,500, and that might still be too low. So I'd have to go down even more. So you might have to make a couple attempts at doing this. That's the quote-unquote hard part. But start at the standard divisor. Then if it works, you're done. If it gives you more seats than you need, you make the standard divisor, or you don't make the standard divisor bigger. You change the standard divisor into a suitable divisor. Once you get it to the point where this number gives you numbers here that when you round them conventionally gives you 250, or obviously for different examples the number of seats will be different, but in this example you wanted 250. Once you get the divisor to the point where these numbers when rounded conventionally give you the right number, you're done. You don't have to worry about, oh well, I wonder if another number would work. You just, as long as you pick the number that works, it works. So that was Webster's apportionment method. The next method that we're going to talk about is Huntington Hill, which does the same thing. You're going to start with a standard divisor, and if it gives you too many seats, you're going to change the divisor to a suitable one. The only difference with Huntington Hill is how you round. You don't round conventionally. So Webster's method, you find a suitable divisor and then you round conventionally. Huntington Hill, you're going to find a suitable divisor and then round using the Huntington Hill method of rounding. So that'll be the next video.